War is a story of noise, the roar of engines, the crack of rifles, the thunder of bombs. The chaos of battle is overwhelming, a relentless storm of sound and fury that drowns out everything else. For those who lived through it, the memory of that noise lingers long after the fighting ends, echoing in their minds for years to come. We picture World War II as armies clashing, cities in ruins, nations fighting for survival. The images that come to mind are of shattered buildings, smoke rising from the rubble, and endless columns of weary soldiers moving through devastated streets. It was a time when the world seemed to be falling apart, and every day brought new destruction and loss. History books tell of courage and sacrifice, the loud moments that shaped our world. We remember the heroes who charged into battle, the leaders who made impossible decisions, and the victories that turned the tide of war. These stories are celebrated, retold in classrooms and at memorials, forming the backbone of our understanding of the past. But there's another story, told in silence. It's a story that rarely makes headlines or history books, yet it's just as important. In the quiet moments between battles, when the guns stopped firing and the world seemed to hold its breath, another kind of struggle took place. A battle within the hearts of those who fought. It's about the moments when a soldier looked through his sights and chose mercy over orders, compassion over conflict. In the split second between life and death, some found the strength to see their enemy as another human being, not just a target. These decisions were made quietly, often unnoticed by others, but they carried immense weight. These rare acts are small defiance against war's brutality, proof that humanity can survive even in darkness. A shared cigarette, a bandaged wound, a moment of understanding. These gestures were rays of light in a world consumed by violence. They remind us that even in the worst of times, kindness can endure. They're not in official records or celebrated with medals, but live on in memories and whispers. Veterans recall these moments in quiet conversations, in letters home, and in the stories they share with their families. These memories are cherished, passed down through generations as reminders of what it means to be truly human. Stories of German pilots sparing bombers, risking their own safety to let an enemy crew live, show us that even in the sky mercy could prevail over hatred. Enemies sharing peace on Christmas, laying down their weapons to sing carols and play football in the mud, remind us that the spirit of humanity can break through even the thickest walls of conflict. Officers risking all to protect the innocent, defying orders to shield civilians from harm, show us the courage it takes to stand up for what is right, even when the cost is high. These moments didn't change the war, but they changed lives, and offer us a profound lesson. They remind us that every act of compassion, no matter how small, can ripple outward, touching hearts and shaping the future in ways we may never fully understand. Today, we'll journey into these stories, exploring the choices between duty and conscience. We'll hear from those who faced impossible decisions, and learn how their actions continue to inspire us to this day. These are the moments when the guns fell silent and humanity triumphed, if only for a moment. In the end, it's these quiet victories, these unseen battles, that remind us of the enduring power of empathy, even in the darkest chapters of history. Winter 1944. The Battle of the Bulge raged in the frozen Ardennes. American and German soldiers, exhausted and freezing, faced each other across no man's land. On Christmas Eve, a young American heard something unexpected, singing. It was a German carol, Stille Nacht, floating across the snow. The melody, so familiar, felt like a dream in the midst of war. Soldiers on both sides peeked from their foxholes, drawn by the song. A German soldier raised a lantern, illuminating a small Christmas tree. An American called out, proposing a truce for the night. A voice answered, agreement. The tension melted away, replaced by wonder. Without orders, the men themselves chose peace. For one night, the guns fell silent because of a simple carol in the dark. On Christmas morning, as the first light crept over the frozen battlefield, an uneasy silence settled across the snow. The truce, fragile and uncertain, miraculously held through the night. For a brief moment the guns were silent, and the world seemed to pause, holding its breath. In that silence, a German soldier and an American cautiously stepped out from their trenches, meeting in the vast, empty expanse of no man's land. Their movements were hesitant, each unsure if the other would truly honor the truce. Soon, more soldiers from both sides gathered, drawn by curiosity and a longing for connection. They reached out, shaking hands in the biting cold. In that simple gesture, They saw not enemies but young men just like themselves, frightened, homesick, and longing for peace. For a moment, uniforms and languages faded away, replaced by a shared sense of humanity. They sat together in the snow, sharing cigarettes, chocolate, bread, and wine, small luxuries in a world turned upside down. Laughter and smiles broke through the language barrier as they savored a rare taste of normalcy and warmth. Family photos were passed around, each image a reminder of loved ones waiting far away. Stories were exchanged in broken English and German, tales of childhood, dreams, and the lives they hoped to return to. In those moments, they found common ground in their hopes and fears. For a few precious hours, they were not defined by the sides they fought for, but by the simple fact that they were human. They laughed, told jokes, and even sang songs together, their voices rising into the cold winter air. This unofficial truce was a small miracle, a secret shared among a handful of brave souls. It was never written in the history books as an official event, but for those who were there, it was unforgettable. They knew the risks, punishment from their commanders, suspicion from their comrades, but they chose to honor the spirit of Christmas, if only for a day. Their courage was not just in battle but in reaching out to the other side. In those fleeting hours, they saw the humanity that propaganda tried so hard to erase. They recognized themselves in the faces of their so-called enemies, realizing that the lines drawn by war were not as deep as they seemed. As dusk fell and the cold deepened, the soldiers quietly returned to their trenches. The reality of war would soon return, and the brief peace would be replaced by the thunder of artillery. Yet each man carried with him the memory of that extraordinary day. Something within them had changed. They had shared a moment of grace, a glimpse of what the world could be if peace were allowed to flourish. The memory of that day would linger, a quiet hope in the midst of chaos. The Christmas truce of 1944 stands as a powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, the desire for peace and understanding endures. It shows us that beneath the uniforms and the orders, we are all connected by our shared humanity. It was a silent testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a flicker of light in a world overshadowed by war. Even a brief ceasefire born of hope and courage can echo for a lifetime, reminding us that peace is always possible, even if only for a moment. December 20th, 1943. High over Germany, a different silent trigger. U.S. pilot Charlie Brown's B-17 Ye Olde Pub was shattered, engines failing, crew wounded, tail gunner dead. Alone, the bomber was easy prey for German ace Franz Stigler. Stigler's orders, shoot down enemy aircraft. He closed in, ready to fire, then saw the bomber's true state. The crew was helpless, the plane barely flying. Stigler remembered his code: never shoot a man who can't fight back. To attack would be murder, not combat. He eased off the trigger, defying orders. The guns of his Messerschmitt stayed silent. In that moment, chivalry outweighed duty. Stigler chose humanity over victory. A silent act, but one that would echo for decades. Instead of firing, Stigler pulled alongside the battered B-17. Brown and his co-pilot braced for death, but Stigler only gestured, urging them to land and surrender for medical care. Brown, confused, refused and kept flying toward England. Realizing the danger, Stigler made a bold choice. He escorted the bomber, flying close to shield it from German guns. This act risked his life and career. Helping the enemy was treason. He stayed with the B-17 until it reached the North Sea, then saluted and turned back. Stigler never reported what happened. He kept his mercy secret. Brown landed safely and later searched for the mysterious German pilot. Decades later they met, enemies turned friends. Their bond, born from a moment of compassion, lasted a lifetime. One silent trigger became a lifelong connection. Sometimes mercy changes everything. Winter 1937, Nanjing. The city fell to the Japanese army, unleashing horror. Orders from above demanded brutality. Disobedience meant death. Yet some chose a different path. One mid-ranking Japanese officer, let's call him General Tanaka, faced a moral crisis. Witnessing the slaughter, he couldn't stand by. Quietly, he used his rank to protect a small neighborhood, including a hospital and school. He posted guards, not to keep people in, but to keep soldiers out. Every day he risked his life, defying orders to shield the innocent. He wasn't fighting the enemy, but the cruelty within his own army. In a city of terror, he created a fragile sanctuary. Tanaka's sanctuary was a small island of hope. He met intruding units, inventing reasons to keep them away: quarantine, military clearance, anything to protect his zone. Inside he maintained order, shared scarce supplies, and demanded respect for civilians. He wasn't a liberator, but for those he sheltered, he was a lifeline. His defiance wasn't political, it was deeply human. He saw terror in Mother's eyes and chose honor over obedience. His courage was in refusing to become an instrument of destruction. Tanaka's story complicates history, showing that even in systems of cruelty, individuals can resist. A single act of mercy can shine in the darkest times. History is shaped by the choices of individuals. Why do these stories resonate so deeply with us, echoing across generations and continents? What is it about these moments, captured in the chaos of war, that continues to stir something within our hearts long after the guns have fallen silent? They're not tales of victory nor of conquest or glory, but of conscience, of the quiet, often unseen decisions that define our humanity in the darkest of times. In the vast machinery of war, these were small, isolated moments, fleeting acts of mercy or restraint. Yet, despite their scale, they matter deeply. They are the threads of hope woven through the fabric of devastation. These stories remind us that even when surrounded by destruction, we possess an enduring capacity for compassion. They show us that kindness can survive, even when the world seems to have lost its way. They challenge the simple us versus them narrative, urging us to look beyond the labels of friend and foe. In these moments, the boundaries blur, and we see the shared humanity that connects us all. These stories force us to see the person behind the uniform, the hopes, fears, and dreams that exist on both sides of any conflict. The acts of Stigler, Tanaka, and the soldiers in the Ardennes remind us that empathy can erase the lines between enemies. In the midst of battle, a single act of kindness can bridge the deepest divides, if only for a moment. These stories teach us that even within the relentless machine of war, we are not powerless. We have choices that carry immense moral weight. Every decision, no matter how small, shapes the legacy we leave behind. In a world still divided by conflict and uncertainty, these stories offer hope. They are a reminder that light can be found even in the darkest times, and that the human spirit is resilient. They prove that even in the worst conditions, humanity can endure. Compassion and courage can survive the harshest trials, inspiring others to do the same. Compassion is not a sign of weakness, but a profound strength. It is the quiet force that binds us together, even when the world is falling apart. The desire to protect one another, to reach out across divides, is at the very heart of our existence. These echoes of conscience remind us of who we are and who we can choose to be. World War II's history is vast, but look closer. There are threads of mercy. These are the stories of silent triggers, a Christmas carol, a pilot's salute, a general's shield. They didn't end the war, but they saved the idea of humanity. War is fought by people, each with a conscience. These stories remind us our shared humanity is stronger than any order or flag. In today's divided world, their message is urgent. See the person, listen to conscience, choose compassion. Let's honor those who chose mercy under pressure. Their choices are a light of hope, proof that kindness can guide us through darkness. The triggers stayed silent, but their message rings out, loud and clear.